Next day, rang me, you need to come into hospital for a scan straight away. I was going dizzy all the time. Couldn't see anything, kept ignoring it. Went to the doctors. Next day, rang me, you need to come into hospital for a scan straight away. Bloody hell, it might be a brain tumour. I use this technique on myself, okay? So whatever you're going through in life, ask yourself these 3 questions. Worst case scenario, what could it mean?
Yeah.
Middle case scenario, what could it mean? Best case scenario, what could it mean? So let's say the brain tumour. Worst case scenario, it's a brain tumour. Okay, if it's a brain tumour, what will I do? I'll have this treatment, that treatment, and that treatment. And if that doesn't work, what will happen? Well, yeah, I'm screwed. Middle case scenario, what could it be? It could be some sort of condition that I'm not aware of, that I've never heard of. What if it is, what can you do? Go and get an operation, get treatment, etc. I'd cross that bridge when I come to it, but at least it's not a brain tumour. Best case scenario, it's something minor. I can do whatever I need to do and I can crack on with my life. Thankfully, it was something minor. I've got a chronic visual migraines, which it sounds worse than it is.
Phil, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, mate. Thanks for giving your time up. Just going to read you what it says you do, and then you can explain to me what it is, okay? So, you are a qualified psychologist and mindset coach, having previously ran a practice working with thousands of clients on issues ranging from anxiety, motivation, phobias and stress. And you've worked with everyday people like me, and then celebrities and comedians and footballers, all of that, boxers. Nowadays, you focus on athletes and high-achieving entrepreneurs, while also you're a consultant to various companies and a founder of a charity aimed at boosting the mindset of children, which is a fantastic next thing that you're doing. So, first and foremost, what is what do you do and what is psychology? What are we chatting about today?
Well, I could give you the real cheesy line and say I'm like a midwife for people's goals and ideas to come out and change. But essentially, I've based my work around helping people tackle emotional blocks. Okay. So whether those emotional blocks are sports related, as in the boxers and the footballers and the UFC fighters, or for and again, you know, these guys encounter these, whether it's everyday people who are going through life changes, maybe they're struggling with anxiety or phobias or things like that. Mm-hmm. So essentially, what I do is I use a range of tools and techniques that help that person get control of their mind, get control of their thoughts. Because obviously the mind and emotions are interlinked. So on one hand, that could be me helping someone who's wanting to go on, like for example, a comedian he had a gig abroad and he was scared of flying, or it could be someone who's had, you know, trauma in their early 20s and they're in their 40s now and it's affecting their lives. So a bit of a range of things, really.
So what is psychology then?
So psychology essentially is the study of the mind. Okay. But when you look at the mind, you can dissect that in many ways. You can obviously look at things like cognitive functions, i.e. how we think, reaction time, stuff like that, which is topical for the sports people. Or it could be our personality and our, you know, the traits that we have. So specifically when it comes to therapy or coaching, it's looking at what traits a person has and how we can help that person adapt to their traits. For example, anxiety is a big thing. And I think anxiety, you know, is a label that's often, as with any label, people gravitate towards it and misuse it. But anxiety is a natural state. It's something that every human has because at times we need it. Because it's that feeling of anxiety that stops us putting our hands into the fire or, you know, making a massive risky decision. But by the same token, it can weigh us down a bit. Yeah. So when I've worked with people in the past who are struggling with their anxiety, when it comes to psychology, the first step is to ascertain whether or not that person is, you know, has a natural trait of being an anxious person. Okay. Because we all know people like that. There's probably people listening now or watching who have always got anxiety. So there'll be certain coping mechanisms I can give that person that'll help them. The flip side of the coin, Baz, there might be people who are generally, and we all know people like this, happy-go-lucky, nothing gets them down, but they're suffering from anxiety. So again, what's happened, what changes have taken place, or what's coming up in their life, and again, give them a different set of tools.
Okay. Excellent. How have you found the differences between sports athletes then and everyday people in terms of the challenges that they face with not going into competition as such, but what sort of affects them and affects normal people, if you like normal people, I'm saying.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, I mean, I think when we're talking about like the elite athletes, so we're talking about maybe the Premiership footballers I've worked with, or the world champion boxers.
Yeah.
I know we often hear this, they are gifted. Their brains, their minds do work on a higher level in some areas than the average everyday person in the street.
Right.
So some examples of that would be the mechanics of their brain. So things like their decision making. So let's imagine now, you and I are playing on a footy pitch against Zidane. He's like 10 steps ahead of us in his brain already, isn't he? Because his decision making and his focus. But the other thing that I find with athletes is the resilience and the sort of ability to bounce back. The key difference, I'd say, though, from a high-performing athlete and just an everyday person in the street, where the person in the street might have a little bit more development, is around their personality.
Okay. Because
if you think about, and you will have experienced this with your past as, as an aspiring footballer, footballers especially, and boxers, they miss out on a lot as they're growing up, because they've got to be so disciplined. They've got to have so much rigour. Academy players nowadays, they're in school and then they're travelling like 2-3 nights a week and over the weekend. So they're missing out on a lot, and that's often, and it's probably something we'll touch later on, why footballers struggle later on in life when they retire.
It is. The mind is incredible, isn't it? And obviously we get more and more information all the time, from information about footballers, boxers, golf, whatever it is. Everybody is sort of seeking this clarification from a therapist, if you want to call it that, or a sports psychologist, or a normal psych, whatever it is, whoever it is they can speak to, about developing these mental aspects to cope. Because the world is changing, isn't it? The world now is, our brains probably weren't built for the world now the way it is. And we're adapting all the time, aren't we? And the pressure that these people are put under as well makes it more difficult. Social media, everything else, we'll get onto that. But it is fascinating. It's a fascinating subject, the mind, and what you're able to achieve, and how things change, and how thoughts, we learn something that our brain rewires in a different way, which is incredible, isn't it? It's absolutely incredible. So how did your journey into this begin? Were you fascinated with the mind? Is this something that's been a current, sort of like a concurrent theme, like the way through your life? Or is this something that developed as you got older?
I'd probably say it's something I fell into, and I suddenly found myself at a point in my life where I wanted to sort of learn more about the mind, specifically to help people. Okay. So, I'm 40 now. I know I look a lot.
You look sharp, yeah. Thanks, you look good.
You look younger than me, though. To be
well, hair dye and everything else that goes with it. Yeah, 10 press ups a day.
Yeah, of course, mate. So up until I was about 25, it never crossed my mind. I wasn't really interested in the mind or things like that. And around that point in my life, I was suffering from depression, if I'm honest. Stuck in a rut. Couldn't really see a way out. Had a decent enough job. I worked for a local massive retailer, but I hated work. And if I'm honest, mate, I hated myself. Found it really hard to look at people when I was talking to them. Didn't even want to look at myself in the mirror. And again, I'm not trying to get the violin strings out, but there might be people watching who felt the same.
Where did that come? Do you have any idea where that came from, or was it?
Yeah, I think in my formative years as a teenager, there was breakup of my parents' marriage, and then my mum and myself and my brother, we went and moved in with my granddad and my nan. And my nan had Alzheimer's, so you're going through a life change, and you're helping care for your nan, etc. So, and I think like any child and any teenager, we all react in a different way. So at that point, part of my personality hadn't developed, and I'd tried to sort of in my 20s escape from my life. And by that I mean like going out drinking, etc., and then being depressed the whole of the week. So I got to this point anyway where I was stuck in a rut. I had a good group of friends, an amazing girlfriend who's my wife now, but the work side of my life was just like really getting me down. And living with my granddad as a teenager, he was like a brilliant man. Learned so much from him, old school. And the thing with him was he had such a strong work ethic. So like he'd never take a day off. He got shot in the leg and he'd still be in work, you know what I mean? And that was instilled in me. So I remember one day, it was around Christmas, to be honest, Baz, and my friends were going out, and on a Sunday night, because they were all, I think, my mates that I was going out with at that time, they all worked in like the building trades and that, so they're off over Christmas. Yeah. So I tried to book this day off work, the Monday, and I couldn't book it off. So I went out anyway.
As you do.
Yeah. And I woke up in the morning, I was like, oh, I can't face work today. So I rang in sick. Now, it killed me to do that, because I had to lie to say I had a cold or whatever.
Put the phone voice on.
Yeah.
Put the phone voice on.
Yeah. Well, what it did was, if there's anyone watching this, if you ever want to put the phone voice on, lie upside down and talk on the phone, because you sound really sick. So anyway, I did that, Baz.
Can't condone that, but if you feel like you've got no other choice, that's how you do it.
Yeah, and my 3 sons are watching. Don't do that. No, lads. So yeah, I did that, and to try and make it look realistic, I stayed off the rest of the week. But that week, I was like, I felt so guilty. I felt bad. I was thinking, God, my granddad would kill me if he'd known I've done this, etc. I went back to work the next week, and then I generally got sick. So I was off then again for another week. So that second week that I was off, Baz, I started reflecting and started thinking, like, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going with it? By this time, I wasn't as depressed as I had been, but I felt stuck in a rut. You know, I remember it was someone in work, again, people watching might feel this. Someone in work had been there like 40 years and they brought them a cake out. I was getting like palpitations, thinking, God, I can't stay in this place for that long. So that week I was off, I thought, well, what can I do? What do I like doing? And 2 things happened to me, Baz, 2 massive things. The first one was, my favourite programme ever is The Sopranos. I know you're going to New Jersey to watch Everton, aren't you? So maybe watch that on the plane, mate. You'll love it. So anyway, I was watching a documentary, and this is when YouTube first started. And it was the lead actor out of The Sopranos, James Gandolfini. And he'd gone over to, I'm not sure if it was Iraq or Afghanistan. And he went out to surprise the troops there, especially the ones who had PTSD and stuff like that. And they were made up to see him. And I just thought, wow, like, he's like an actor, an idol for a lot of people who like The Sopranos and that sort of stuff. And he's there giving something back. And I thought, wow, imagine being able to have a positive influence like that. Second thing was, I read a book, and the book's called Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning. Okay. By a guy called Viktor Frankl. And essentially it's a true story of Viktor Frankl, who was he was like a psychologist, very eminent. You know, he was just behind the likes of Freud and Jung in Austria during World War II. His big challenge was he was Jewish. So obviously in World War II in Germany and Austria and France, it wasn't really the best place to be if you were Jewish at the time. Because he was so good, Baz, essentially universities in America were willing to take him and his wife and rescue them, and, you know, he'd have a teaching post there. However, that would mean he'd have to leave his family behind, his parents and that. So he's agonising over this decision. And one day he's sitting at his table. His dad comes in really happy, puts something on the table, a little bit of rubble. Look at that, Viktor. And he goes, what is it? He went, well, the Nazis now at the moment, they're looting the synagogue, they're smashing it up. So he was like, well, why are you so happy? He went, look what I've managed to save. And he'd saved part of a mosaic from the 10 Commandments. So when Viktor Frankl looked down, it was the commandment which said, honour thy mother and father. So for him, that was a sign. So I don't know, Baz, what you're like in your life, if you ever see signs or things have ever happened to you. But that was a sign for him. So fast forward a few months, and Viktor Frankl finds himself now in a concentration camp in Auschwitz. And he's looking down one day, and, you know, there's people dying around him. You know, it's like a living hell. People being persecuted. And he looks down and he realises the Nazis, they've took his clothes, they've took his books, they've took his family. He knew his father had been murdered. He guessed that many of his other relatives had been murdered, he didn't know yet. And he's looking down, and they've shaved him, and they've tattooed him. And he thinks, what's the point? And then he realises, no matter what they were doing to him, ultimately he could have control about what he felt and what he thought. And he came up with this amazing saying, and this, when I read this, mate, it was like a light bulb moment. If you can't change the situation, you've got to change yourself. So I was like, yeah, like, I've got parts of my life I'm unhappy with. No one's going to come and fix them for me. I need to do something about it. So anyway, with Viktor Frankl, that really inspired me. And because of Viktor Frankl's mindset, Baz, he survived the war and he created a type of therapy called logotherapy, which is to help people either who are suffering with suicidal thoughts or who have been impacted by the suicide of someone. Right. And the whole sort of ethos around that therapy is, instead of saying, why me, say, try me. So, for example, you know, a friend the other day, he's a good boxer, actually, Loopy, his name is, he's got a fight coming up. He missed the train for work. And he said, at first I was angry, and then secondly I was like, do you know what? I wasn't supposed to be on that train. So it's sort of like shifting attitude.
Yeah.
So once I learned all that, Baz, I was like, do you know what? I'd love to be able to help people. And I started listening to Paul McKenna, hypnotist, I started looking into a guy called Tony Robbins. Don't know if you've heard of him. And I was like, wow, I would love, in an unselfish way, I'd love to be able to just help people like that.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, okay, academia, what can I do? Got myself on a hypnotherapy course. I thought, am I either going to love it or hate it? Loved it. And then straight away I set up my own clinical hypnotherapy practice. And then fast forward a bit further, I managed, thankfully, to build my business up while I had my day job. And in doing that, mate, all the depression and all the angst that I'd been carrying and the trauma, to the extent of, I used to suffer from IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and I never realised what was causing it. I always thought it was food. I know we were talking before about oat milk. I always thought it was food related, but it's stress. And the minute that I started helping people and that, and the things I was learning, used them on myself, it went. Never had it again. So eventually I got to the point, Baz, and where I had another sign, and it was this. I had 2 kids by then, me and my wife Becca. We had our first 2 sons, Oscar and Max. I had my day job, I was getting well paid, but I wanted to leave to do my practice. And I would have took a financial hit if I'd have just left. And I was like, do you know what though, I've got to do it, I've got to take that risk. So I jumped. A few days later, I'd handed me notice in. Becca came to me and said, I'm pregnant. I was like, oh, my 3rd child. So what I'm trying to say about is, if she'd have found out a week earlier, I wouldn't have left that job. So I think in some way there's a sign there of, you know, you take a risk and it happens. And it was the best thing ever, Baz, because what it meant was 3 kids under the age of 5, I had to make the practice work. And this is what happens, you know, when you take a leap or you make a step, the universe, God, your higher self, whatever, will challenge you or reward you. So the challenge, I left that job, and my challenge was, okay, well, here's another baby to look after. And the reward was, and this is what's brilliant, that same day that we found out we were having Joe, who's a massive Evertonian, by the way, just told me to mention him. The same day we found out we were having Joe, I got an email from me old university at Jill. So I'd studied history there. And it was inviting me to try out a psychology masters. So I was like, wow. So then that's when I went and studied psychology at a high level and got my masters in it. So that's what led me, mate. So from being somewhere, so you know, the message that I always try and help people with is, you might be stuck, you might have made mistakes in your life, you might still be making them. You can change. All you've got to do is just realise that it's down to you. You're accountable for it.
Brilliant. So I mean, that, just talking there, listening to you talking about that mental side of it, how you shift, obviously, the inspiration you got, you know, reading books and learning people's stories has helped you with your mindset shift, getting rid of IBS, things like that, and which is unbelievable, affects so many people in the world, doesn't it, who are always looking for ways around, you know, to help them. It's a horrible thing. Just shows really the importance of the mindset. And when you then start working with sports people, you can see just how that does impact. And what we're seeing now is more and more of these people turning to do you call it psychologists or sports therapists, or even in some cases just therapists.
Yeah.
Someone to talk to or to give them coping techniques, whether that's CBT or cognitive behaviour therapy or other things for them to try. I mean, when you first started working with sports people, what sort of things were they coming to you with?
Well, the very first, essentially, I built my practice up, and I was generally helping people with things like anxiety, phobias, people who struggle with insomnia, stuff like that
kind of thing.
But I've always
flying.
Fear of flying, yeah. Someone that you might be watching, actually, so you won't mind me saying this, but there's a local comedian, Frankl Allen.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen him. He's brutal, but lovely fella.
Yeah.
And his son Will, his mum and my mum were mates years ago, but they're still friends. Touch, whatever. And so me and Will have always sort of known each other. So Frankl Allen, go and watch his clips on YouTube, by the way, if you haven't seen him. He had a gig in Tenerife, I think, but years earlier he'd flew to the Isle of Man. Probably he was already a bit scared of flying. It was almost like hurricane gale force winds, so it scarred him for life. So he came to me for some hypnotherapy so that he could fly, and he got over there. So I'd gone from like helping people like that, and I've always been interested in, obviously, football. Love Everton. Used to be a junior Evertonian back in the day in the Gladys Street, and I've always loved boxing. Yeah. Again, another legacy from living with me granddad. He loved boxing. So I remember one night I was putting the kids to bed, and when your kids are young, Baz, it takes hours, doesn't it? So I'm sitting in the room with them, read them a story or whatever, and I'm just looking at my phone, and David Price, he'd been announced he'd had this massive fight with a guy called Povetkin. Povetkin was a heavyweight who, as an amateur and as a junior, was like phenomenal, like seen as the next Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And then he went on and had a really good, really strong professional career. He was probably just a level below a Tyson Fury, shall we say. So anyway, massive fight news for David Price. Never met David before, never spoke to him. I've sent a message on Instagram to him. Hiya, mate. My name's Phil. I help people with the mind. I can help you win that. Put my phone away. Forgot all about it. Spent about 2 or 3 hours trying to get the kids asleep. Got them asleep finally. Went downstairs, looked at my phone, message, David Price. Oh yeah, I've just messaged him. Have you got a website? I was like, yeah, bang, sent him my website, because obviously he wanted a bit of credibility.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So then he sent me his number and give me a ring tomorrow. The next day I'd rang him, and then I'm sitting in his living room having a cup of tea with him, and essentially he wanted some help to overcome his past defeats so that he could go into the Povetkin fight on a clean slate, because this was the toughest opponent. Yeah. So for him, it was all about, he'd been very unlucky, David Price, because he'd lost previously to someone who got caught doping, which Povetkin actually did in the end. And also he had another fight where I think he got punched in the ear, which again destabilised you. Yeah. But he had a lot of... David Price always had a stigma attached to him, that he'd ran out of steam early on in his career, or he didn't have that killer instinct. But Baz, a tremendous fighter, superb fighter. So David and I worked on sort of giving him this bulletproof mindset.
Right.
You won't mind me saying this, because the people that I mentioned, by the way, Baz, have given me testimonials, so they're happy for me to talk about stuff. And one of the things David and I worked on a lot was how you can... So there's a famous quote, the best way to win a war is to disarm your enemy without firing a bullet. So in the sporting terms, there's a thing called centre of gravity. So obviously there's the centre of gravity in your car or when you're running an app, but someone's centre of gravity is the thing in their life that means the most to them. And if you can somehow target that or shift their focus to that, they become weaker in other areas. Okay. So when it came to Povetkin, I realised he's, I don't know what branch of Christianity is. It might be Orthodox Christianity, but he's really, really religious. So we worked on things like, when you're face to face with him, mention some of these things to him, or even like there's a specific cross that type of religion uses. I said to Dave, get it painted on you, Because just think, Baz, right? So you love your family. Say me and you were going to have a fight, and I've got a picture of your kids on my T-shirt. You're going to be able to punch me. And some of the other things David was really keen to do, and when we thought about, was stuff like using the media to sort of change people's perception of him. So we discussed an idea of him about 2 weeks before his fight. We were going to get someone to take pictures of him like stumbling out of a pub, so his opponent think he's not he's not taken seriously. In the end, we didn't do that. But one thing that we did work a lot on with David was building up his resilience. A naturally resilient guy, and he performed superbly in the fight. So having worked with David and him sort of saying how much it helped, other boxers started getting in touch. And this is the only time I've ever been starstruck, because my favourite boxer growing up was this guy called Stephen Smith, Swifty, so, the Smith brothers.
Yeah.
And he got in touch, and I was like, oh, hi, mate. Sat down. And so this is the other thing I've found with athletes. So an athlete's mindset changes where they are in their career.
Right.
So with Swifty, he was coming to the end of his career, and he was, from an outsider looking in, he was still worthy of big fights, and he still wanted a title, but they weren't forthcoming. So he was having to take fights. So for him, great guy as well, really strong mindset, brilliant family values. For him, it was more about keeping that performance level high, taking how he trains in sparring under the lights.
Right.
Same with footballers now. So I'm working with a footballer now who plays for the championship team. He's a young prospect, very highly rated. He's had a couple of loans, and him and I are working on creating a leader out of him. Okay. So, for example, this lad got in touch with me towards the end of last season, and we both quickly agreed, right, your pre-season starts today. So he ended last season as if it was the start. Nice. He's trained phenomenally over the summer, and he's gone back into pre-season, and he's absolutely flying. So for him, we're trying to get them gears up, and this is a great tip for any young footballers watching, or boxers, or any type of athlete. It's called role modelling. Role modelling. So with him, he's a Liverpudlian. So it was like, okay, well, he plays in a certain position. Who's your favourite player that plays in that position? Gerrard. Okay, cool. So what you're telling me, these challenges you've got, how would a Gerrard approach them? Well, he'd do this, and this. Yeah, and it's that sort of, and you can do that with anyone. There might be people watching this, Baz, who want to be a broadcaster, or have their own podcast. And again, if you're watching, how do Toffee TV do things? And you role model, and like I did early on without realising, I did it with Tony Robbins and Viktor Frankl. And you can role model on anyone and you can role model on people in different ways. So it sort of developed then with the boxers. Sometimes it was because they were coming off a defeat. More often than not, it was they were going into like a title fight. Probably the biggest one was Callum Smith. So Callum Smith beat George Groves to become the WBC champion, amongst other things. He won this Muhammad Ali trophy, loads of belts at stake. So with him, it was all about giving him just that extra yard. And we spoke a little bit before about the mindset of athletes, and his cognitive functioning, unbelievable.
Was it?
And when I say that, so there'd be several techniques and things I'll do with people when I first meet them to see how their brain works, and his was just like a machine. His focus is, and I think if you ever look into Callum's personality, he's like that. Nothing. He's like bulletproof, really. Nothing seems to get to him. He's quite stainless. You know what I mean? So that's sort of. It's always been around either the performance, and what I always thought would be the reason, Baz, and people probably watching are thinking this. I've never worked with a boxer where they had issues in their personal life. Right. They always managed to, when they're there boxing, like they'd come into my office and they'd see art therapy as part of their training.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, a lot of them struggle because, unlike football, boxing, well, you're on your own in boxing. When you're on the pitch, you've got 10 other people next to you. But when you're in the ring, it's just you. and obviously they're not rewarded as much as you know, high level footballers are. Very small percent of boxers obviously become multimillionaires. The rest of them don't. So again, yeah, it's always been around like helping them with get the performance from training into the main events, or alternatively helping them get over the sort of defeat.
Isn't it for some of them though? Don't they like that ultimate sort of? It's all on them. It's them. Their destiny's in their own hands. I know the team puts them together, training, nutrition, therapy, all of it. Whereas on a football pitch, you could be having a great game if your goalie throws two in his net, or if you're the goalie and the lads up front aren't scoring. You're in that collective sort of failure thing, if you like. If you call it failure, you know, not achieving what you want to. With a boxer, a golfer, them kind of people, snooker player, you know, they're all ultimately they're in charge of their own destiny, aren't they? And I wonder whether does that weigh more pressure on them, or does that take the pressure off them because they do feel like they can control it? Have you found it?
Well, I think to add to that point as well, it's the context of, so we'll call it the performance, okay? It's the context of the performance. So when a footballer's perform, when he's on the pitch, you know, it's 90 minutes and there's 22 of yous. Oh, and there's a referee and there's coaches. But when a golfer's going out there, he's on his own. When the boxer's in the ring, they're on their own. When the person's standing at the hockey, they're on their own. So it's a totally different mindset in that way. In terms of pressure, I would say there's no difference in how all these people handle the pressure. What I'd probably say with the footballers is there's more of a, like when a boxer finishes, he or she goes in the dressing room and it's them and their coaches. When a footballer finishes, he goes in the dressing room and there's loads of competing personalities.
Of course,
So I always feel that, you know, and I don't say this disrespectfully, a footballer sometimes has more of a fragile ego. Because especially in, you know, not so much now, but, you know, in the men's game, there's a lot of toxic masculinity. There's a lot of bullying. And this bullying comes from the top often. Obviously, you had, you know, Schumacher on the last podcast, which was fantastic, and he sounds like a very forward-thinking guy. I've worked with, you know, international players who've told me things about household name managers that would absolutely appall you. You know, the treatment that they give young players, especially if you did that in any other line of work, you know, they'd be fired straight away. So I think where footballers sometimes struggle is if they make a mistake during a game. You know, if they give the ball away early on, their head goes down. We see it ourselves. You know, some players, it doesn't bother them.
No.
You know, something like a Haaland might miss a shot, sound, I'll score the next one. But then, you know, you look at some players.
So where does that come? Because Conor Cody was on the podcast, and fantastic, but he said about his Liverpool debut. He said he'd give a ball, he'd playing in Europe for Liverpool, and he'd give a ball away, and he said it took him 10 or 15 minutes to get over the fact that he misplaced a pass. And he said, now, give a ball away, because I do. And I have to go and get it back, or I think like the next action. It's something when I'm coaching, I always say to our kids, I'm trying to instill that to them. The great thing with football, if you make a mistake, you've got the next action to put it right. So if you give a ball away, forget it. Don't go and make sure the next one's good or the one after's good. It's easy saying it because they're the ones who are playing the game. But how do you fix that then? If you're working with a young player, this young player you're working with now in the championship, is he on that mindset? Is he, if I give a ball away, oh my God, I think about it? Because loads will. They might not always admit it, but the mistakes are there because they're competing, trying to get into this big thing, isn't it? I guess that's where it's different as well. If I'm Luke Littler, who's a prodigy, you know, unbelievable at his age, you know, you see him, some weeks it just doesn't happen for him and he gets his darts and he'll go off and practice or whatever because it's on him. But if I'm Luke Littler trying to get into a dart scene where there's with the pick and load and there's only a certain amount can get in, that's a different pressure, isn't it, to get there? So how have you found that? Are they mental barriers you feel like they've got to get over? So you know, in the area of sports psychology, mental toughness, I was going to ask you about that, mental barriers,
So you know, athletes, and when I say athletes, I'm talking about any professional sports person. The athletes have got a higher degree of mental toughness when it comes to competition than the average person. And
is that an innate skill they've got, or is that something they developed?
I would say, well, look, everyone, we've all got the same personality traits. I've got the same traits as you. We've got the same traits as R9. We've got the same traits as Adolf Hitler had. It's just we have them in different levels. And with them traits come, you know...
I can't believe you've gone from the greatest striker ever lived to Adolf Hitler in one fell swoop. But carry on.
Sorry, R9, if you're watching, mate. So basically, the mental toughness is just one attribute of the mind. And there's a good study by a guy called Gucciardini around why athletes have strong mental toughness, and one aspect of it is it's this decision making under pressure. So for example, you know what you've said there about, and this is true, you know, I help a young basketball team from Toughness Elite. They're called brilliant lads, lads and girls, sorry, and you know there's two guys, Emil and Yao, who've it's like a charity, and they invest loads of time, and they've got loads of kids off the street teaching them basketball. And when I coach them with their mindset, it's all about this fail fast mentality. You're gonna fail, do it quickly so you can learn. So so the footballer that I'm working with at the moment, he's past that stage now, of, you know, he's in his early 20s, and for him, from speaking to him, and it'll probably be the same for most, and Connor Cody, it's when they're first trying to break into the team, or when they're first training, they feel that pressure. And the way you overcome it is just by saying, look, I'd rather get my mistake out early doors, so then I can improve on it. That's probably most prevalent in golf, though. Because unlike football, where you can give away a few bad passes, but you can run around a bit and throw a tackle in, in golf, every shot counts. So with golfers, I used to use a technique a lot, which Tiger Woods is known for using, and Johnny Wilkinson in rugby, called anchoring. Have you ever heard of anchoring? So with anchoring, what you're essentially doing is you're picking an emotional state that you want to be in. For example, Johnny Wilkinson, he wanted to be in an emotional state where he could score the winning. Where he could score the winning thing. For Tiger Woods, he wanted to be in an emotional state where when he's on that putting green, doesn't matter how he hits it, it's going in anyway. There's a magnet pulling it. So the way you work on that is you spend time, and you know, people can do this at home. Maybe you're getting angry, you're losing your rag at times, or maybe you're getting dead nervous, you got a job interview. So pick the state that you want to be in, i.e. calmness, and you close your eyes, you think about times you were calm, you put calm music on, you bring to mind all these calm feelings, and when you're starting to feel really calm, you do something like make a fist, or click your fingers, or touch your nose, whatever. That's the anchor. So let's just say, you know, you wanted to be even calmer than you are because you're very calm.
Not when Everton are playing, sadly,
So you'd spend time, you'd bring to mind maybe the calmest place in your life, being on the beach, or watching the kids play, whatever, and you'd make a fist, you'd make a fist. And then when you're in a situation where you want to be calm, you'd make that fist again. And it fires these neurotransmitters, So it takes a while. So footballers, boxers, etc., they're probably innately better doing that than us, the everyday person. So when it comes to like making mistakes and pressure, that's something that athletes are better at doing. It is that fail fasting, and it's that, you know, and that's the funny thing with younger players and younger athletes, because on one hand, they're quite fearless. They've got nothing to lose. But on the other hand, they don't see it that way. You know, I can't remember... It was on one of your podcasts where a player was saying when he was young at Everton, and you know, like Big Duncan would be firing the ball into him and moaning at him if he didn't control it. And Ferguson's obviously doing that because he knows that's what the lad needs. So the fail fast methodology, and you know, that's the same with anything in your life, business ideas or whatever. The sooner you fail, because there's no such thing as failing. There's no such thing as losing. You don't lose, you learn. Everything's feedback, isn't it?
Trying to remember that when Everton do lose, that they're just learning.
True.
It's just a learn.
True.
That 3-0 defeat was a learning. Oh, but you're right. No, you're right. Obviously, from an individual perspective. It is fail quickly, isn't it? And you do learn. You learn arguably you learn probably more from failing, if you like, or losing, or whatever term you want to pick out. You probably learn more from that, or you should do, than when you win, if you like, because winning's great, but there can be a reason behind it. What anchoring I find really interesting, because I think that's something listeners, viewers, how would we go about that then? Say, if we step away from the sports side just for a second, so this is obviously a technique maybe for all of us. It could be for whatever, couldn't it? Someone could be struggling just the way they feel. Someone could be struggling with a relationship, or struggling with a job, or struggling with anything in their life, conversation they need to have, or how can we get away from that? What would we do? Like, if you were advising me, if I come to you and said, Phil, look, every time I go and watch Zach play footy, I get really nervous and I stop enjoying it. Yeah. And I just want to watch him calmly. I mean, I could say, every time Everton play, how can I be calm watching it? Yeah. But, you know, if I'm applying it on a personal level, it could be something like that. Or, you know, I have to work with Ped every day and it gets me anxiety. Or how can I anchor myself? Yeah. Yeah. What technique could you give someone who's saying, look, I'm struggling with this, I've got to go and do this thing, and I overcome? How would we go about doing an anchoring technique? Would it work? Could it work? Yeah.
So there's a very, very simple and effective technique, and this is a technique that I've used since I learned it with thousands of people, thousands of clients. The context is this. So whatever we're feeling at any given moment is based on the chemicals in our brain. Yeah. Okay, so naturally the brain produces more cortisol than anything else. Because if you think about like how our brains were developed when we were cavemen and women, we had different focuses than we had now. The main focus was, how do I not get eaten?
Survive.
Yeah. The second focus was, how do I find some shelter? And the third focus was, what can I eat? Yeah. So they were always on alert, and cortisol makes you on red alert all the time. Yeah. Okay. So in our state of mind now, we're addicted to the cortisol. That's why people find themselves stuck in a loop. That's why I was, we're addicted to the feeling of being stressed. We're addicted to that chemical. So the chemical...
Because I've heard this before, and I'm not disagreeing, because it's absolutely correct, but... How have we got ourselves in a situation where we're addicted to something that's hot? Like I do, I openly say, I do have moments of, I suffer at times with some anxiety, like health anxiety stuff. I have to work to get out of it and to get out of it. But why is my body dragging me back to a point that I don't like, which is like either faster heart rate or just feeling like a heavy feeling? Sometimes, like, why am I addicted to that when I don't like it?
Two things, Baz. Okay, so the first one is, naturally, that's just how our brains are built. Okay. Because, thousands and thousands, millions of years of development, our brain is where it is now. But secondly, it's conditioning. Okay. So you and everyone else have these things called neuroassociations. Yeah. So a neuroassociation is how you link something in your brain to the emotion or the feeling. Okay. So your conditions of that, and conditioning. So if we think about Pavlov's dogs, yeah. So if anyone who's watching Pavlov, essentially, this is how conditioning works. Pavlov was a scientist, so they say, and every day he'd be doing certain experiments, and he had these like massive dogs under. Have you got a dog, Baz?
I have got a dog at the moment.
What's your dog called?
Tessie.
I was expecting like an Everton name.
There's a story behind her. Yeah. But she's awesome. Yeah.
Is she an Evertonian though?
She doesn't like footy, and I like that. That's
what you want. You want to go home and the dog's talking as well.
No, we don't want the dog looking depressed when I walk in, do I?
Exactly. So essentially, Pavlov every day he'd be doing these science experiments, and it'd get to like 6 o'clock, and he'd be like, right, I need to feed my dog. So he'd get the dog food out, and he'd ring the bell, and the dogs would come, see the food, slobber, and then eat it. So every day, 6 o'clock, dog food out, ring the bell. One day he's doing his experiments. It's 6:30. Runs over, rings the bell, the dogs come out, and he starts slobbering, and he thinks, oh my God, I haven't put the food out. Why are they slobbering now when there's no food there? Because dogs slobber when they see food. It's a neuroassociation. Okay. So he rings the bell again and he starts slobbering. So basically what had happened was the dog's brain was conditioned that whenever they hear the bell, it's the same trigger as when they see food, so it has a reaction. Okay. So our minds are like that, which we can go into on a conscious level. But on an unconscious level, one of your defense mechanisms in your life, Baz, was when you felt certain things around you, you thought you might be sick, and it gives you these symptoms.
Okay.
It was a way of getting you out of a situation, maybe. Yeah, maybe you know, we could go back and link it. Maybe there was something you had to do in school that you didn't want to do one day, and at the same time you had a sore tummy, so your teacher said you don't have to do it. Could be something like that.
Oh, okay.
But essentially, going back to that one technique, then what's the technique that could help you or help anyone be calm? The thing that mitigates cortisol the most is a thing called serotonin. You heard of that?
Yeah.
So if we've got more serotonin in our brain, we're going to feel calmer. Serotonin's like bubble wrap. When your brain's full of serotonin, the triggers of a negative take longer to get to the part of your brain. So it doesn't bother you. A bit like, who's your favourite boxer of all time, Baz? All time?
Lennox Lewis.
Lennox Lewis, all right. So let's say poor James was stuck on his chair, okay, and every 5 minutes an alarm went off and Lennox Lewis burst through the door and started punching him in the head.
Oh, it's a bit harsh.
It is, yeah. In between those 5 minutes, though, me and you were wrapping him in bubble wrap.
Okay.
Eventually, when Lennox Lewis comes in and hits him, there's going to be so much bubble wrap, he's not going to feel it, is he?
No.
And that's what serotonin is. So how can you boost your serotonin? How can you stay calm? Very simple, it's this. So if you take your hand like that, you've got a little pressure point there.
Just below the little thing. Anyone listening, it's
anyone listening, do a karate chop,
half an inch below your little finger, on the outside of your hand.
Take your 2 fingers and you start tapping it. Okay?
Yeah.
So as you're tapping there, listen how loud that is.
Yeah.
Because I've done it with thousands of people. Okay, so what's happening there, Baz, is it's sending a signal to a part of your brain, the amygdalas, that's releasing serotonin.
Okay. Right.
So this is how you do it. So you'd spend some time when you're calm, when you're at home, tapping.
Just tapping that.
You might want to say a word in your head. You might want to say the word calm, okay? So what's happening there is you're boosting the serotonin, but you've created an anchor.
Okay.
So then when you're on the sideline and your lad's through on goal and you're getting stressed out, you could just quickly start tapping and it would release all that serotonin, it would release the anchor.
And that would hopefully calm.
And here's the best bit to link it all back. Pavlov would be proud, okay? If you're doing this at home going calm, eventually you don't even need to tap. You just say calm, and you feel it. So this is a technique I've used with all the footballers I've worked with. And a funny one is, that's an interesting one, I should say. I was working with an Everton player while Carlo was there, who, by the way, sounds like an absolute legend in terms of his man management and his motivation, which we can come on to. So I taught this player this, and he was like, have you worked with and named probably our best player at the time at the club? And I was like, no. Why? And he was like, he does something similar before he comes onto the pitch. So this player who comes onto the pitch had an anchor where he'd tap his chest. Okay? Right. Now, like we said before, like you never lose, you learn, and everything you hear is feedback. That was feedback that I took on. And there was a boxer I work with, April Hunter. And with April, now a boxer in the middle of the fight can't stop tapping the rank, can he?
No.
Footballer can, boxer can't. So with her, it was like, I know, I'll tie it into what that footballer taught me. So with her, she used to pat her chest. And you might see a fight. I went up to one of her fights. She fights for she was fighting for Eddie Hearn at the time. I was in her hotel room the day of the fight, hypnotising, etc. Yeah. She came out in the second round, bang, got rocked. She's looked over at me, so I've gone like that. She stood there and started going like that. And her whole physiology changed, Baz. And she battered the girl she was fighting. So my tip there would be, if anyone at home does suffer and wants to feel calmer or any shape or form, practice doing that. And then when you can, when it's safe, do it, and it releases all that emotion. And the other quick one, Baz, is change your physiology. So if I'm sat like this, do I look confident? No. Do I look engaged? No. I'm sat like that. And again, that's something that I've worked on with the footballers a lot. Cristiano Ronaldo's a great one for this. His stance when he's taking a free kick. Yeah.
I don't know.
So again, guys, this is a quick one. If anyone's listening or watching at home and you feel a bit crap right now, stand up. Imagine you've got a crown on. Imagine you've got a cape on. Instantly, mate, try it, Baz. Yeah? Don't you feel a bit different? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Cape on there.
Yeah, well, you would be, yeah.
Super bass, yeah.
Or Victoria's Secret Angel Wings, whatever, you know, I don't know, mate.
Whatever.
But yeah, physiology changes a lot. So
It's something that simple.
definitely, mate. And you know, the other thing as well is movements. So yeah, I don't know if there's people watching who like maybe procrastinate. One way to quickly, if you need to do something, is to just stand up, is to just move, because it activates everything, it fires everything up.
Okay.
And quite often that can be the difference of putting things off for hours to actually just going and getting something done.
It's so interesting, isn't it? It really is so interesting. In terms of being able to maintain concentration then and things like that with athletes, you know, I don't know whether you've ever worked with like a runner or whatever, people like marathons or even for athletes who are going into a big event, like how... I'm always fascinated with marathon runners because I'm always like, how the hell do you keep just running for that length of time and keep your head in that space and keep running when your body's hurting and stuff? But I guess it's for like boxers, although footballers, when it's... How do they maintain that concentration? Have you ever done any work with that, or are you just sort of... Can you just make an assessment, do you think, of what they're able to do in those moments? Because how do you keep that level going all the time?
Well, with marathon, I've done 2 marathons myself, which was... I hate running. Oh my God, all my friends are in a running club, Marsh Lane Harriers, and I really don't like running. I shouldn't say that, should I? So I know...
You need to change your mindset.
Yeah, I do. But with running, marathon runners and endurance runners, so people watching at home will know this, anyone who's ran, is you get to a point where it's a battle of mind over body.
Yeah.
So you'll have a couple of miles where, I'm enjoying this, I'm dead happy, but my legs are killing, and then you'll have another few miles where your legs feel boss and you just want to stop. It comes down to that resilience. It comes down to that mental fortitude. Now, look, if we're talking about athletes and we're talking about Premiership players or any professional type athlete, they've got that naturally.
Yeah.
That's not an issue for them.
That isn't an issue. Okay.
This is more an issue for the younger players.
Yeah.
Now, one of the worst things about the football game in Britain is it's how young players are treated. Like, right, I didn't realise this because I never really thought about it, but we look at like Premiership players, any Premiership player, and we think, well, they probably knew all the life they were going to play, and life was easy. Young academy footballers go sometimes from training session to training session or month to month with uncertainty. Am I going to get capped on? Yeah. What's going to happen here? So they've got that level of uncertainty in their life, and that sort of unravels itself later on in their career. That's often why you see players might make a move that, for all intents and purposes, they go to a club which suits them in the style of play and they just can't fit in. It's because they haven't been able to adapt properly. But yeah, going back to sort of this endurance, now you maintain it and focus. Everything's about focus, Baz. So,
because I suppose with football, it's even like long seasons. They're still having to do it later on in the season. They're still having to go and still produce time and time again.
Yeah, and you know, we were speaking off air about the World Club Cup, and I was it Man City v Juve or something, and there was the goal. City's goalie just gave the ball away to whoever they're playing out. Just stupid basic mistake. It's because he's tired, because he's like, they're having the longest season ever. So yeah, so focus is massive. But with focus, I work with a boxer called Marcel Braithwaite. Brilliant young boxer. Well, he was young at the time. He's a bit older now, Marcel. Multiple champion. Stupidly, at that stage in my career, I used to think that an athlete needed to be calm all the time. So I worked so much on getting him calm, and he had this big fight against a guy called Sonny Edwards down at the Copper Box in London, which is like this 10,000 seater stadium. So I've gone down there with his coach Wayne Smith from Golden Gloves in Hockey. I've gone down there. Again, I loved the boss experience as a fan. I thought I was just going to watch him, and I got there like, no, come on, you're coming in the dressing room with us. Did the ring walk with him. It was brilliant. So anyway, in the changing room, I'd never met his coach before, Wayne. And he was like, nice to meet you, Phil. I've heard a lot about you. Can I just ask you, though, why is he so calm? I was like, well, that's what he wants to work on. We wanted to get him calm. He's like, yeah, but he's a bit too calm. I was like, no, don't worry. When he got in the fight, Baz, he was too calm.
Was he?
Yeah, and he lost because he was too calm. So I realised I went away and thought, what could I have done differently? And it's not so much calmness for a professional athlete, it's focus.
Right.
It's the same with the footballer I'm working with now. He's had a mind coach previously. He was trying to make him calm, and he was like, how can I stay calm when I've got me back to play? I'm trying to get the ball here. I'm looking where the run is. So it's all about focus.
Right.
Now let's look at our minds in a different way, okay? Focus is probably the most important word in the English language. Got two sides of your mind, Baz. You've got the left and right. The left is logic and the right's creativity. Okay? Would you say you're an overthinker?
Yeah.
Would you say you're a worrier?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're very creative. You're just spending more of your time in this part worrying. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because your imagination can either be your greatest asset or your greatest liability. Yeah. So you're using them. I'm not just saying you, for example, we all do this. So this is what we need to do. We need to think of our focus like a kite. So I asked this question. It's mad how many people don't know the answer. But the best weather to fly a kite in is windy weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the worst weather would be a lightning storm, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So what you've got to imagine is when we're thinking about anything, a challenge in our life, okay, or a situation, we can either focus on it logically and get the solutions we need, or we can get lost in the emotion. So our kite wants to go over to the windy logic and not to the storm there. So the way you do that is by looking at things rationally. So let's say this happened to me, to be fair.
Okay.
About 18 months ago, I was going dizzy all the time. Couldn't see anything. It's crazy. Kept ignoring it. Thought maybe I need more sugar. Maybe I'm diabetic, whatever.
Yeah.
Went to the doctors. Next day, rang me. You need to come into hospital for a scan straight away. Bloody hell. It might be a brain tumour. Oh, my God.
Wow.
So I used this technique on myself, okay? I could either spend hours and hours worrying, Googling, and, oh, my God, I'm going to die, or I could look at it logically, and this is how you do it. So whatever you're going through in life, ask yourself these three questions. Worst case scenario, what could it mean?
Yeah.
Middle case scenario, what could it mean? Best case scenario, what could it mean? So let's say the brain tumour.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, it's a brain tumour.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay, if it's a brain tumour, what will I do? I'll have this treatment, that treatment, and that treatment. Okay? And if that doesn't work, what will happen? Well, yeah, I'm screwed. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay? Middle case scenario, what could it be? It could be some sort of condition that I'm not aware of, that I've never heard of. What if it is, what can you do? Go and get an operation, get treatment, etc. And what would that mean? I'd cross that bridge when I come to it, but at least it's not a brain tumour.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, it's something minor. I can do whatever I need to do and I can crack on with my life. Thankfully, it was something minor. I've got a chronic visual migraines, which it sounds worse than it is.
Right. Yeah.
But this is the thing. If you do that, Baz, right, even though worst case scenario is terrible, the more you rationalise it, you desensitise yourself to it.
Okay.
So, the more that you go through this, okay, I'm worrying about it. Well, all right, let's think about it logically. If it's A, B, or C, I'll do this, this, and this. The more you do that, it draws the emotion out of it.
Okay.
So rather than you focusing on that, oh my God, my kids aren't going to have a dad, and what's this going to mean? No, it was no, all right, then, well, what are the steps? That's the way to overcome any problem.
Right.
Think of it logically. Get a pen and paper out. Write those three things. Worst case, medium case, best case. And if it is either of them, what would it then do? That's how you get over stuff. And the best way I can describe that is a footballer, getting on the pitch, go the first training session or whatever. That first pass comes from like a big dunk or someone, and you miscontrol it. Okay, rather than going hard, and it's like, okay, well, what can I do next time? If I give it away again next time, how can I recover well? Or if I control it slightly, but it's not that good, what can I do next? Or if I actually do control it, brilliant. So it's working through your thoughts like that.
What about those moments? This probably applies to people who'll say, I don't know, golfers maybe, or even snooker players, whatever, when people say they choked, or I suppose even missing a penalty or running through, going round the keeper and putting it wide in a moment that costs you sort of the game or whatever. Funnily enough, I've seen Alvaro Morata talking just recently about missing a chance years ago, I think for Atletico Madrid, I think it might have been early on in the game, and he said the game is still 0-0. Yeah. And I was thinking, we're going to get knocked out because I've missed that chance. He said I had the whole rest of the game to play, but it sort of ruined me and put him in a mindset where he then becomes fearful of doing that again, which means he can't do what he does. But when people are saying, oh, they choked in that moment, a golfer who's made a 6-foot putt every single time, knows the green, brilliant, or a snooker player I always think back to, one for the older people, but Jimmy White missing the straight black again, all those years ago in the World Championship final, and he'd never won it, and he never did, but he missed a black he potted every single time, choked in the moment. What's happening to the athlete, the footballer, or whatever it is, call them athletes, in that moment?
Well, there's probably two key factors at play here. One is concentration.
Right, yeah.
And for whatever reason, there's a lapse in that concentration. Don't get me wrong, there's an element of luck sometimes as well. But that's a great example, with, he's going to put the ball. So one is he's probably focusing too much on the pressure aspect of it.
Yeah.
He's probably, because sometimes you've just got to relax. But the other thing as well is his conditioning. So he's built, it means so much to him.
Yeah.
If I do this finally, all my dreams come true, etc. And that pressure's weighing on him. With Murata there in that early miss, again, the best thing he could have done is just gone, right, it's gone now. Right, I'm going to get the ball and score next time. Why it happens is usually down to those two things, and it's unavoidable, because any person or any athlete at some point in their life has fumbled something.
Yeah.
But it's how you then recover.
How do you recover,
Yeah, and sometimes you'll never get a chance to. So then how do you live with that? Funny enough, an ex-boxer came to me. He'd never won a world title. He'd lost. He'd lost 3 title fights. And this is a guy, he wanted it so much and he deserves it really. And he'd been retired about 10 years and it still haunted him.
Yeah.
So we did a bit of reframing. So essentially what reframing is, Baz, is one thing I used to do, like I love anything around sort of how you can inspire people or how you can influence people without them realising.
Yeah.
So for example, I used to have in my office when people would come in for therapy, I'd have like a big smiley face behind me. Because people can't help but smile when you see it.
Yeah.
Or then what I started doing is when I have the athletes coming in, I'd get a trophy and I'd have the trophy behind me. So in their mindset, they're linking a trophy to them.
Yeah.
Might be why you've got a picture of Cruyff behind you there. So
well,
you're the Cruyff of the podcast world.
I'm nearly, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not Hitler.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So what I realised was I'm getting young athletes coming in, young boxers. They're paying me to help them to get the best from them. So I need them to be really influenced by me. So I managed to get a few signed pictures from the boxers I'd worked with, saying like, to Phil, thanks, whatever. And I put them up behind me in frames. Now, you can ask me missus this. I'm not very good when it comes to choosing like wallpaper and things like that, decorating. Yeah. So I bought the wrong frames, Baz, and essentially these big, massive black frames, and the picture just disappeared in them.
Right,
It didn't have the desired effect. So what did I do? I reframed them.
Yeah.
I put a nice white border around them, and it made the picture stand out and have the effect. And it's the same with situations, the same with pressure. It's us reframing it. So if we go back to missing the black, if he could have just paused and thought, I've done this thousands of times. All I need to do is just move my arm and release it. Move my arm and release it. Same with Murata. After that miss, if he could have just paused and thought, have I scored every shot I've ever took? No. Sounding. And I've got myself in a position so early in the game. This is going to be easy. And he probably would have gone on and scored. And that's something that, my youngest lad, Joe, he's a striker. And some games he'll have 3 shots and score 3 pearlers. Other games, like on Saturday, he must have had about 12 shots. And thankfully, he naturally is resilient. But I always say to him, look, you're having the shots.
Yeah.
That's me. If you come off the pitch and you've had no shots, or you come off the pitch and you've had 20 shots and missed all of them, at least you can say I got in the right positions. So it's reframing.
Yeah.
Listen, like we can do that with any issue in our life. Think of like our, third world problems we have, first world problems, that we have.
Yeah.
Let's reframe it. I should have done a bit of this myself in my 20s. Oh, I've got a job that I don't like.
You've got a job.
I've got a job, I've got food in the fridge. I've got electricity.
Yeah.
I'm not living in a war zone. Yeah. I've got, can you move your fingers and toes? Yeah. then you're luckier than most people. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'd say reframing is the thing that would help athletes in that situation.
That is incredible, isn't it? With the increasing use of social media, how have you? Has that affected what you've done with any athletes if they ever come to you about, or how do you think they cope with that? Because there is criticism, there's negativity that probably wasn't around 20 years. Criticism would have been in the moments for those people in it. Like if it's a footballer,
it's more visible now, isn't it?
Now it's there for you, isn't it? No matter what you do, someone will criticise you. You know, you could get 100 people telling you you're amazing, but you'll get 10 telling you you're terrible. And you're going, hang on, how does that correlate, you know? So
and it seems more visceral nowadays as well, doesn't it? Well, you know, again, so we spoke about the mental toughness, and if your footballers and your boxers generally, their egos are a little bit different. They're beyond that, especially the ones who are running out in front of thousands of fans. They're beyond that. They're not as sensitive in that way, shall we say. And I always say to people around that, you know, if you're the type of person who lives for the applause, then you're going to die for the boos.
Yeah.
So I've never really encountered an athlete where that's been an issue, where they've been bothered about social media. What I do try and do, and I'm doing this now with the football I'm working with, is how we can leverage the social media to build up his brand.
Okay, yeah.
You know, how we can go viral doing scoring a boss goal or doing a boss pass, because it's all about getting that brand up there. I have worked with people who are prominent in their industry, who you could argue are a little bit like celebrities, who have been victim of trolling and stuff like that. And again, I think that's just in your personality trait. You know, it's like a double-edged sword. If you want to put yourself out there, you're going to get people. So you've got to be resilient enough to know that.
So how would you go about, or what do you advise those people in building that resilience? How do people build resilience? Because that can come into anything then. If you can build, is it the same as building resilience to things not going your way in your job, or things not going your way in your life, or is it a different? Is it a different?
I think it's something that impacts a lot of people in terms of worrying what people think. Yeah. So I always used to say to people, you know, if whether that be they're worried about people trolling them on social media, or they're worried about what people think about them work, I used to say, right, who are the 5 most important people in your life? And he'd probably say, like, you know, my mum, my dad, my wife, my kids, and my dog, or whatever. Yeah. So those 5 people, they love you no matter what, and they care for you no matter what. And who are the 5 people you love and care about most? It'd be them 5. So unless it's them trolling you, what, you know what I mean?
What difference does it make?
Don't be worried. Yeah. People are only, look, in the grand scheme of life, the sad fact is people are more interested in themselves than anything else. So people forget things. People aren't that bothered. And the other thing about life as well is, and especially when it comes to challenges that you've got, you know, my nan told me this, which is amazing. Your life's like a washing line, and that little problem you're worried about now is going to be a little pair of socks in the grand scheme of things.
Brilliant.
So it's like not looking too deeply into things. One thing though, a difference that I've found with athletes and non-athletes is imposter syndrome. Yeah. Sports people towards the end of the career will start feeling a bit of imposter syndrome. As in, like, they can't do it anymore the way they used to. Right, yeah. But there's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which essentially it's how we rate ourselves at things. Now, athletes are usually really realistic and spot on with their abilities and knowing what they can do and can't do, whereas non-athletes aren't. Yeah. And by this I mean, a non-athlete might think, I'm great at that, I'll be easy at that, and they overestimate how good they are. Whereas your athletes usually are a bit more level-headed. That's something that I'd say people should be aware of in their life, and you know, always make sure you're bearing that in mind. You know, don't overpromise something that you're not going to be able to fulfill. Because as well, you know, for you and I, Baz, sport is a hobby. It's something we enjoy, in it. Yeah. So it's a bit more important that we're realistic with what we can and can't do.
Fair play. What's the biggest mistake you've seen an athlete make before a game or a big competition that people you've worked with or you've thought, or have you just sort of assessed it from someone maybe you haven't worked with and you've thought, is there anything stand out?
Do you know what? Sort of linked to that, I've worked with fighters and UFC fighters who are going into their competition knowing that they can't win.
Okay.
So that poses a difficult ethical question for me of whether or not I think they can win.
Right.
And I've had that happen 3 times, and with those 3 athletes, I've expressed to them, I don't feel you can win unless you can perform to your very, very best.
Right.
Do you honestly feel and believe you can perform to your very best? And they all said, yeah. So then it's okay. So my job now is to get them to that level where they perform to their best.
Where they can perform, yeah.
2 of them won. 1 of them didn't. But that's probably been the biggest mistake. It's biting off more than you can chew, if that makes sense.
Okay. But what do they do in that situation? Because they might only get that shot, mightn't they? And it's like, do it, take it. You know, you're saying there you thought 2 out of the 3 couldn't win, and they did win. So imagine if they'd have gone, you're right, I can't win, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it's do I let this, you hear that often.
Yeah.
Was this chance ever coming back if it didn't go for it? So how do you prepare that then? How did you prepare thinking, well, I don't believe you can win, but I've got to try and make you think you can win? So how did you go about that?
So going back to what we were saying before about, looking at the logic, because if you can make any emotion into a logic or a process, then you can solve it.
Right, yeah.
So with them 3, it was like, all right, well, what has been, and this is something I always ask anyone I work with, regardless of what they're coming to me for. So say you were coming to feel calm, I'd say to you, well, when in your life did you feel most calm? So for them it was, all right, well, what fight have you had where you were absolutely incredible? Well, it was this fight against so-and-so. Okay, so let's talk into that more. What did you do that made you so incredible? Well, for argument's sake, I used my jab a lot. Okay, so you need to use jab a lot. What else made you really good in that fight? Well, I in the run up to that, I doubled my protein intake. Okay, so you need to double your protein. So it's getting that blueprint. Yeah. So then what I used to think is, if I can tick all those boxes, it's like when Frankie Allen went flying. Okay.
As in an aeroplane not falling over.
Yeah. Don't fall over, Frankie. No. But I asked myself, right, if he phones me up and says, the flight was a nightmare, well, I would say to him, did you do all these things that we worked on and all the things I suggested? And if he had, then it's not my issue. And I don't mean that. I don't mean I'm wiping my hands of it, but I've done what I've said, because there's got to be an element. Yeah. It worked because he did all those things. So it's the same when it comes to that. With the footballers, it's generally been clubs they've moved to.
Right, yeah.
Where they don't do the due diligence on the manager specifically.
Okay, yeah.
Worked with one player, he used to play for Liverpool, he's still playing now. Such a nice guy, international player as well. Such a lovely, lovely guy. And that's his downfall. So he had a manager for a time at a club he was playing at, and he'd play a few games and then he'd get bombed, and then he'd get promised this and you come on and you didn't, and so I'd work with him to, you need to be able to have this conversation with the manager, you need to be able to confront him tactically and you know what I mean, and he was just too much of a doormat, too much of a nice guy. So it's like, sometimes it's like anything really, you've got to, if there's an area of life that you're lacking, unless you put the work in, you'll always be lacking in it.
Do you think you think you've just answered it, but people are really conscious of building the physical side of the body, aren't they? I'm talking athletes, I'm talking everyday people, men and women. Yeah. Where are we with building the mental side of it? Like, are you advising everybody to try and build that mental side of it? What can we do to build that mental side of it? And should we be trying to build that mental side of it the same as what we do with our bodies?
Well, I think one of the big challenges in our society is there's often a bit of a stigma attached to mental health and the mindset. You know, that thing that we went through before, the tapping thing, there'll be people watching this who are cynical and go, well, where's the scientific proof that works? And maybe the scientific proof is hard to prove right now, but where's the scientific proof that shows you that you love someone? You just know you love them, don't you? You just feel it, placebo effect or whatever. So I think the other challenge that we have in Western society, especially in the UK, is when it comes to health, it's usually an afterthought. Whereas in the Eastern, medicine, it's all about prevention and stuff like that. So when it comes to mindset, what I'd be encouraging people is, even when things are going well, still work on your mind. Yeah. Make hay while the sun shines. Some little things that you can be doing. Visualization's a big one. Visualization, despite what the title says, doesn't have to mean seeing things. Yeah. Like, everyone visualizes in a different way. Some people can close their eyes and see things in 3D. Some people can close their eyes and can't see anything, but they can feel something, they know something. So find what your visualization style is. And a quick way to do that is, anyone watching at home now, close your eyes and then bring to mind the first drink or the first thing you've had today. And as that's in your mind, ask yourself, can I see it? Can I see myself having a cup of tea? Or can I imagine myself, or can I taste it, or whatever? So once you're au fait with your visualization style, you should be spending each morning doing a little bit of visualization of how you want the day to go. Okay. So today, for example, you and I could have woke up this morning and I could have thought, right, my visualization would be me sitting with Baz, saying all the things I want to say in the right way, and then going home and having a great day. Likewise, yours could be similar. Yeah. The other key thing is, at the end of the day, is to release anything. Is to not go to sleep worrying about stuff. And a quick way... something hasn't gone right in the day or whatever, So, look, two ways of doing that. And again, the visualization, swap your visualization for journaling in the morning. Set yourself 2 goals you're going to do that day. And as you get throughout the day, ask yourself, has this helped me with my goal? Yes or no? No, well, I'm not doing it. Yes, I'm going to do it. But at the same token, at the end of the day, maybe you could make a list of, what were my wins today? What did I do well? This. What could I have improved on? Oh, well, I was a bit, I don't know, short with one of the kids or whatever. It's short with the kids, or I had that opportunity in work and I didn't really take it. Okay, we'll park it and move on to the next day. The way I'd like to suggest doing that is the roller coaster technique. So at the end of the day, when you're going to sleep, what were my highs today? This and this. What were my lows? Some days, Baz, you're going to struggle to find any highs. Might have had the day from hell. So when that has happened, think, all right, well, what are the highs in my life? And go to sleep thinking of them. For example, that holiday I had a few years ago. Oh, remember that pool, the fun we had by the side of the pool, or whatever. Go to sleep thinking of them. That's crucial, really. Because sleep as well, mate. Sleep has such an important effect on our lives. And that's a big thing for athletes. They often have sleeping problems. Because their body are working to such a high level, their mind is so active. They don't need as much rest, and they can't rest when they want to. Again, that comes down to reframing. So I always say to people when they're struggling to sleep, your mind will sleep to the level it needs, but you're putting pressure on yourself. You're going to bed maybe at 11 o'clock, looking at your phone and watching the television, and then lying there for 2 hours and you can't get to sleep. And you're putting the pressure on yourself, saying, I should be asleep now. Or, oh God, I've got to be up in 5 hours and I've got to be up in 4 hours. If you're lying in bed and you can't get to sleep, get up.
Yeah, that's what they say.
And rest doesn't, rest is rest. Rest isn't just sleep. Yeah. The other thing as well, if anyone is struggling with the sleep, is you should be making your bedroom like a cave. Dark. By that, dark. Don't get any bats or anything, but
no,
you're going to make dark. Shouldn't have a telly in there. You should just have your bedroom furniture. Little things like that. There's loads of supplements you can get. But I think, again, that ties into this the way we are in life now. We put too much pressure on ourselves. Perfectionism maybe, or whatever.
Definitely work on the mental side. I think everyone should be working on it as well. What's one mental training technique that sounds too simple to work but actually does work?
Self-talk.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, the voice that you hear most throughout your life is your own voice.
Yeah.
But here's a weird one, Baz. Sometimes you'll have thoughts and it's not your voice. I'm not trying to say you've got split personality.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you might be in a group of people and you might say something and they go, that's a good idea. Where did that come from? And you're like, yeah, where did it come from? But by the same token, sometimes we have negative self-talk, which again is from conditioning. for example, you've got 2 plants at home. One of them you keep in the sunlight, you give it water, plant food, maybe you talk to it, yeah? The other one, you leave it in the corner, ignore it. Which one of them's going to blossom? The same, you might have twins, you might have 2 sons, and one of them, you feed him McDonald's food every day, and you don't let him exercise, and he doesn't go outside, and you shout at him all the time. When he grows up, what's he going to be like as a man? But your other one, you teach him values, respect, your healthy diet, and you spend time and you give him love. Yeah? So we're conditioned by what we've gone through in our life.
Yeah.
And maybe that teacher's voice who always having a go at us becomes our voice in our head without realising.
Right.
So self-talk is important because...
just give us a very quick example of self-talk.
So, all right, let's say... and again, this is what athletes do naturally. So a positive self-talk might be... You're in a meeting in work and you've got a challenge in work. Right, guys, we need to come up with a solution for this problem. And you say something and someone laughs and you think in your head, oh, why the hell did I say that? And then you go down this route of, I'm stupid, I'm thick. Like, I'm not gonna open my mouth again.
Yeah.
And then you go home and you get pissed, or you eat loads of crap, or you do something negative. Yeah. So the self-talk will be, as soon as you've said it, when you hear them thoughts, is to just do a pattern interrupt in your brain and just say, F off. F off. It stops the self-talk straight away. Just imagine this. Imagine I was following you around all day, and every time you made a mistake or you said something, I was going, that was stupid, that. In the end, you'd say, say it in your brain. That's self-talk, positive self-talk. Because again, if you're saying negative things in your brain, like, oh, bad stuff always happens to me, I'm never going to achieve anything, then your brain's going to want to prove that to you. Yeah. Because in that,
same as if you say good stuff.
Yeah. Your brain is like, you've got this thing in your brain called the critical factor. Or the full name is the RAS, Reticular Activating System. And what it does, Baz, is whatever you consciously direct towards it, it will go away and try and prove it to you. Yeah. So like if we sat here now, when did you last see a purple BMW? Don't tell me you've got one. No. Right. Well, we sat for an hour talking about purple BMW. When we got outside, without thinking, and anyone watching at home, this happened to them, their RAS would be scanning, looking for one. One probably goes past us every couple of days, but we don't notice. But it's the same. If you're constantly listening to people or telling yourself that you're crap at something, you're rubbish at something, no one loves you, you'll never get a wife, or you'll never lose weight, then your RAS wants to prove that to you. Right, okay. He doesn't know if it's good or bad. So by the same token, always be careful with your words. Instead of like, oh, I only managed to run a mile. I ran a mile this time. Yeah. Or, oh, I don't know, footballers watching. My passing was terrible today. Reframe and say, my passing will be better tomorrow. Yeah. Sounds really simple, but honestly, it begins in your mind. Difference. Catch your kids saying things and teach them the positives. Teach them to reframe it, because the earlier you plant these seeds, the better it'll become.
What's the most surprising thing you've learned about the difference between a good athlete and a great athlete? And it's not what people would think.
I would say...
is it that thing of focus again, or is there something else?
Yeah, what it always comes down to is, you think of someone like CR7, he doesn't compromise on anything.
No, nothing at all.
He sets the highest possible standard, and that is the difference between. So Natasha Jonas, who I've worked with, 2-time world champion, sets the highest standards possible for herself. So she isn't happy to just go out and win. She wants to win convincingly. Right. Yeah, and she's relentless in that. She won't compromise on that. So it's setting the high standard, and it's also. It's having that humility to know you are going to have bad days, and to not letting that dampen you. Michael Jordan, the famous one, he said, after training every day, he'd stay and practice loads. And I don't know what player it was, players joined his team. And the player, who was like an up-and-coming basketballer, and he thought, yeah, oh my God, brilliant, I get to play with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan practically ignored him the first training session. So he's like, wow, I need to try and I need to impress him. So he started staying behind when Jordan stayed behind, and you noticed the first night maybe Jordan stayed for an hour. So the next night the lad stayed for an hour and Jordan stayed for an hour and 10 minutes. And he kept pushing him. And one day he confronted him and went, look, what is it? Why are you ignoring me? What is it you don't like about me? What am I doing wrong? He went, I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to push you. And it's like, you know, Babe Ruth used to say, didn't he? End of season game and he's running like a madman. Someone said, like, we've already like won the championship or whatever, why are you doing it? And he was like, there might be a boy or a girl who comes and watches me today and this is the only time they ever see baseball and I want them to see how good it is.
Like the best version.
So it's that high standard. And if you think about, you know, kids footy or you think about, you know, adult footy, think of those players who just always want to show the best, higher standard. So yeah, that's what makes someone great than just good.
Brilliant. These are 3 quick fire ones.
Okay, mate.
All right?
Yeah.
So true or false, you can change a person's personality?
True.
Okay. And how?
Well, we've all got the same personality traits. Yeah. So you can analyse. When it's trick question, I can't change it. Yeah. That person can. Yeah. We all can.
Yeah.
We look at our personality traits.
Can a therapist help to change it?
Yeah. Anyone can help. Yeah. So it's what? Okay. What are my main traits? And there's a thing called Hexaco. If you Google Hexaco, it's a personality inventory, a personality questionnaire, which tells you what your traits are. So what you might learn from that is you might learn that you're someone who naturally does have a high level of anxiety. Great. So if you know that, you can go away and think, well, what are my triggers on my anxiety? Okay. It's when I have this in my diet, or it's when I see these people, or it's when I don't do this. And then if you focus on them, the personality will change.
Okay, superb. What's the one thing people do every day that's damaging their mental health?
I would say the one thing people are doing every day that damages their mental health is comparing themselves to the things you see on social media.
Okay.
Like, ask yourself, if you're on social media, why you're on it. And okay, if you're on Instagram or Facebook and that, maybe it's to keep in touch with people that you're not even friends with anymore. Is it helping? Maybe you're following loads of people who wish I had that body, wish I had that house, wish I had that car. If it's not inspiring you to change or anything, is it worth it? So it's thinking about what am I comparing myself to? Because everything that you see on social media isn't real. And the other thing that we should avoid doing is judgment. Why are we, the self-judgment, the judging of others? Sometimes you just got to let things flow. There's a great technique, Baz, which people might want to do. It's based on this Buddhist thing called the 2 arrows. So when you get shot with an arrow, which hopefully never happens to you, but when you get shot with an arrow, you suffer twice. Once when the arrow goes in, and once while the arrow's in and it's getting knocked. And that's like life. So what happens to us, Baz, is we have difficult things that happened to us in the past, and if we don't heal from it, we get triggered again. Yeah. So one thing that people could do at home is think, what are the 5 worst things that have happened to me in my life? Okay, and then how can I prove to myself that these no longer bother me or affect me? So maybe it was someone was a gambling addict once, and they were about to go on holiday, and the morning of the holiday, they spent all the spending money on a horse race, and it lost, and they're still suffering from it now. Yeah. Well, they could write that down, and they could find ways to just release it. Maybe go and have some therapy, or maybe do whatever. So that's a useful thing.
I think that we're going to finish in a sec, but this is just when you were saying that then about stuff still bothering you. I'm reading Joe Dispenza's book, Dr. Joe Dispenza's book at the moment, which is fantastic. All about meditation and how you different things. But the big thing, and it has been scientifically proven, how you can change the brain and how emotions change and everything. The taking of the emotion of that thing. So like you've said it a couple of times now, you just reset it there, is that when something happens to us, the brain takes a snapshot of that thing and paints an emotion over it. And yet that's still prevalent in our life forever. So I've it with me nan dying when I was young. That's still in my life now, and I know that that's a bit of work that I need to do. It's take the emotion out of that situation. Yeah. Take it, So it's just something that happened, but there's no emotion attached. It can be anything.
Yeah.
Something where we're wronged, or something where some bitter disappointment that we had in our life, and our mind or our body rather doesn't know that it's not happening to us right now, so it takes us back. Like, it'll take me back till I'm 8 again with that situation, or it could be something in football that, you know, not making it or whatever. Removing that emotion, and that's what you were saying before, that try to disassociate with that thing. So it still happened, but we don't feel like it's happening to us again now, because I remember there was one about athletes in the Olympics where, can't remember the exact study, but they wired all the athletes up and asked them to run the 100-metre race in the mind, and the body, every response was as if they really were running the 100-metre race, even though they were just sat in a room with stuff on and their eyes closed. Wow. The body fired up exactly the same as them when they'd done the test with them running the race. Yeah. And it was your body doesn't know it's not happening to it right now. That's how strong your mind is. So it's mad, isn't it? It's so interesting, and if you can, like you just said, disassociate from that.
So there's two
feelings.
It's a relationship. It's disassociating from when you need to, and associating with something else. Yeah. The other thing with past trauma is, so PTSD, there's an opposite to that. There's post-traumatic growth, right, which is taking what's happened to you and go in the opposite direction. Okay, yeah. You know, you might have, you often see it. You know, you see maybe brothers where they've lost a parent early on, and that's drove one of them to have like a striving life, dead healthy, no bad habits, and the other one's gone down a different path. Yeah. So and you're not always in control of that, and that comes down to a lot of things about the mind, Baz. Control. So one of the other big differences between professional footballers and the average man or woman in the street is how they handle uncertainty. So, you know, when they're walking out onto a pitch, they don't know exactly what's going to happen. No. But they've got enough belief and enough practice in themselves to know how they could handle certain things. And, you know, that comes down to the mental toughness. If we look back at our lives, the things that we still agonise over, it's because we've lost control over them. Yeah. But they're now controlling us. Yeah. So it's getting used to living in uncertainty. And the thing is as well, you know, if you're sitting here watching this or listening to this, you've survived every battle so far in your life. Yeah. You'll keep surviving, won't you? Yeah. Absolutely. Just that, again, the other point with that very quickly is Wayne Rooney. Yeah. I spoke to him, he was talking about that, the visualisation somebody did as a kid. Yeah. He just did it the night before, and he'd done it all through his career. Yeah. What's tomorrow going to be like? Right, I'm going to score this goal, I'm going to turn with that, I'm going to shoot like that, and that's I thought that was really interesting that he was doing that from 13, 14, 15, and right the way through his career. And he didn't have a bad career, did he? Let's be honest. Here's a key one with that, Baz, as well. So, again, this is something... So, a client who used to work with Jazza Dickens... World champion. World champion today. Now, yeah. Big Evertonian as well. He is. To get him on, mate. Yeah, I've been on a couple of times, Jazza, but we'll get him in, yeah. So, Jazz has always been great at visualising, and when I first worked with Callum Smith, his experience of visualising up to that point was just visualising on the good stuff, lifting the belt up or whatever. But no. With your visualisation, guys, what you've got to also do is visualise how you get through the pressure moments. So it's great to visualise yourself as any young footballer scoring a winning goal. Brilliant, yeah. Or making or saving a pen if you're a goalie. But visualise yourself when you've got the ball and you haven't got a pass on. Visualise yourself holding the ball up. Visualise yourself when you've give the ball away and now you win it back. But it's the same with our own lives. It's nice to just visualise about, we've got this holiday and this is going to be lovely. Visualise seeing yourself when you're feeling down, when your first sort of thought is, I'm gonna have a beer tonight instead, or I'm gonna have a cigarette. Visualise yourself not doing that. Visualise yourself getting past that. Brilliant.
What's the biggest myth about therapy?
The biggest myth about therapy is that you only need it when things aren't going well. And therapy doesn't have to be you paying and sitting in an office with someone and sitting in a brown cardie lecturing you about your life. Yeah. Therapy can be anything you want. Therapy can be you going for a walk with your friends. Therapy can be you reading your favourite book. Therapy can be you having a bath or whatever, the music on. But actually getting professional help doesn't have to be when times are bad.
And isn't a sign of weakness. That's what I'd say.
Do you know what? I used to think that when my practice was really booming and stuff like that, I never used to open up to anyone. And I used to think, I can't have challenges and issues in my life, because how can I help others if I can't? And it became a closed book. And I used to think being vulnerable was like weakness. But that's the biggest vulnerability ever. It's okay not to be okay. And it's finding that space and that talk. But yeah, so you know, the clients I work with now are not just athletes, but I work with like prominent entrepreneurs and businessmen. And these are people who, you know, we're talking about like multi-millionaires.
Being successful in their life,
And what they know is, and this is the difference, therapy holds you to account.
Okay.
Because if you were a therapist, Baz, and I'm coming to you because I want to grow my confidence, or you're a PT and I want to come to you because I want to have a six-pack, you're going to guide me through, this is how you get a six-pack. I'll see you this time next week. And if I come to you next week and you go, how's your six-pack coming along? I'll go, well. And you go, well, did you do this, this and this? No. So you'll hold me to account, and that's what a good therapist can do. But listen, you know, therapy as well, if there's anyone who's really, really struggling at the moment, there's so many different types of therapy. I used to do a lot of clinical hypnotherapy. Again, the stigmas where people think hypnosis doesn't exist and stuff like that. It's a natural state. You go in and out of hypnosis throughout the day. You drive somewhere and think, God, how did I get here? So
Yeah.
And then later on, you're dying for a Kit Kat. And you don't know why. It's because you drove past an advert for a Kit Kat. So whatever. But there's so many different... So what I would say, therapies that people can look into, which are really good. There's one called EMDR, which is great for anyone who's got a post-traumatic stress disorder. There's cognitive behavioural therapy, clinical hypnotherapy. But then there's a range of other types of therapies. But the last thing I'd like to say on that is, if anyone is struggling at home, there's people like the Samaritans. Just get in touch, speak. The worst thing you can do, especially young men watching, especially young footballers, is to keep things locked up inside. Share, get them out, because people will be struggling. And that's what I loved about, I'll go back to what I mentioned before, when you had Schumacher on, and he said when young players come, he goes over, he talks, he interacts. And I think, you know what, for guys around our age, Baz, whatever your profession is, if you're seeing someone struggling, go over and help them.
Yeah, give them a help.
Yeah.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have asked you? Or is there anything that we haven't discussed that we should have done?
There isn't, Baz. The final couple of things I'd like to say is two little stories that have helped me in my life. And the first one was that anyone can change. And that doesn't matter what you've been conditioned to, you can change. You know, the story of the tiger born in captivity, and there was a big campaign, we were going to release the tiger. It's a big media thing. They took it out to the wild, had it in a cage, opened the cage, all the cameras are watching, and he stayed in the cage. But you can just move, you know, you can get out of whatever cage you're in. The second one is this. I used to have an office in the Port of Liverpool building at the Pier Head. I was walking to it one day, and the fog was covering the Mersey. Like literally, you couldn't see. It was just fog.
Yeah, couldn't see anything.
Now, if you came over from America and you came to Liverpool, you'd heard all about the Mersey ferry or whatever. That was terrible, wasn't it? But if you came over,
wasn't great,
and you looked out, you'd be like, "There's nothing there," and that's life. That's the unknown. You don't always have to see what's in front of you. Just take that first step, and you'll always end up where you need to be.
Phil, brilliant.
Thanks, mate.
I just think it's so important to understanding the mind as much as you can, whether it's going into it to the level you did, or whether it's just doing a little bit more yourself just to understand where you are, because we are getting a lot of information. The world changes so quickly, you know, the AI revolution's here and everything else, and people are worried about how that looks, but we are built for probably a different world. The way we were, just naturally, intrinsically, we're built for a different world. So we are having to negotiate our way through, you know, changes, and life changes very quickly, doesn't it? But I think it is massively important that there is people like yourself and other people who people can talk to and just, you know, just get things off the chest, or get some understanding of what they're feeling. That's the big thing, is that I'm not alone when I feel like this, or why am I feeling like this? why do we keep going back to this? How can I cope when I feel under stress or under pressure? And we're seeing the amounts of pressures on young sports people, on footballers especially, because they're carrying the hopes and dreams of however many thousands of people followed them, and they are getting that feedback as well, that, you know, maybe they only got in a stadium or in a press report the next day. They're getting it 24/7 now because of social media and because the need for them to be on it. So it is massively important that they do build up their mental capacity, as it is for all of us. So thank you very much for coming in and giving your time up. It was a brilliant conversation, and hopefully all the work you're doing with young people as well, hopefully that'll go and you'll educate the young adults of tomorrow on their journey about meaning that stuff like this is easy. It's not a big step, and it isn't, as we said before, only undertaken by people who, as a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength to go, I need a little bit of help. Do you want to help me here? So thank you very much. Good luck with everything you're doing.
Cheers, mate.
In the future, and thanks for coming in.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Nice one, mate.